guys, welcome back to GU's College Context podcast. Today we're talking about the dreaded FAFSA. We know this can be a difficult thing at times to speak with your parents or just going through the whole process, but we're going to speak a little bit about it, how to go through it. Hope you guys enjoy.
So my name is Ayebele, and I'm an admissions counselor here at Greenville University.
My name is Kay McClain. I'm a admissions counselor here at Greenville University too as well.
And then we have some special guests with us today.
My name is Holly Fike, and I am the financial aid advisor in the financial aid department.
And I'm Dave Kessinger. I'm the director of financial aid.
Okay, perfect, guys. We got a first weird question for you. What is your favorite food?
Oh, favorite go-to food right now actually is Joe's Pizza. So that's why I showed up today.
Did they pay you to plug that in right there? Did you get a sponsor deal?
Right, I know Brian personally. Right.
Okay.
Crazy thing, but my favorite food would actually be pizza also. There's not really a pizza that... I've never met a pizza that I didn't like.
Okay, I got a follow-up question for both of you since you like pizza. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Not on my pizza.
Thank you.
What?
Okay, see, here's the thing. I would probably eat it, but it's not my favorite. But I mean, it's pizza.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I was against the pineapple on pizza because you can't mix fruit with pizza. But I learned to appreciate the awkward combination as I grew up.
There you go.
I refuse to put pineapple on pizza. I won't.
What
do
about
it.
a fruit pizza?
That I do like, but that's not truly pizza though.
I mean, it's flat, it's round, it has like a sauce type thing. You put fruit on top. Candy
not a
pizza.
See, it sounds like you're contradicting yourselves over on that side, but great. Well, we just wanted to get you guys here to be able to speak on something that a lot of students and a lot of parents actually dread. It's something that, oftentimes it doesn't make a lot of sense. I remember when I was going through senior year of high school and this thing called the Fafsa all of a sudden was now, on my computer and I was trying to navigate it. To be honest, it's like one big blur. I don't even remember how we did it. But we wanted to just kind of get your guys' perspective of why the FAFSA is so important for students that are coming in and how does it actually work?
Right. Well, the FAFSA itself is a federal government form, so that in itself can be intimidating, but don't let that stop you from tackling it. The average amount of time a FAFSA is filled out is 22 minutes. So that's, on average, sometimes takes longer, sometimes less. I have two sons here at Greenville right now. It took us probably about 30 minutes, probably 35 minutes to fill it out. Of course, Dad, financial aid director, we were going down each question, going through, okay, you really know what this means, right? Going to the regulations and everything. But yeah, so it's very important. Actually, the state of Illinois this year is going to require it for all high school seniors graduating at high school to fill it out.
Okay. That's actually pretty surprising because I would have thought that the average time for the FAFSA is much longer than 22 minutes, but yeah, that's interesting.
I would think it's more like 2 days.
To be honest,
Right?
It feels like 2 days when you're doing it as a student.
Yeah.
I know. They try to build in a lot of skip logic and things like that, so if you answer a question a certain way, you don't have to go through all these other questions and things like that. So it tries to really get to the point that in your situation, your family is at.
Yeah.
And if you can use the Irs Data Retrieval tool, do it.
Huge.
Because that's going to pull all of your information directly from the IRS, all your financial information. It'll be correct. There are a few instances where we might have to check it, but so don't call me on that. But more than likely, it's going to be correct. It'll be there in a jiffy, and then you won't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for some of the students or families who it might take longer than 22 minutes to fill out the FAFSA, what to you guys are some of the most common mistakes that you see being made on a FAFSA? I know we were just kind of talking about it before the camera started rolling, but could you go over that?
So the most common that I see is whenever the parent financial information is duplicated into the student information. So if most students don't make much money, and whenever you look at their a student income and it's just as much as the parents, that totally skews the FAFSA calculations, and it's not an accurate picture of the family. So that's a major problem.
And then working with the EFC, the expected family contribution, that goes way higher, right? And then in turn,
Absolutely.
they get a lot less financial aid from whatever
Correct.
schools that they're applying to, because it looks like they're making, so
Twice
much
as
money
much,
as
yeah.
students, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 other quick things about the FAFSA. The magical date's October 1st is when it opens up every year.
Oh,
The
okay.
FAFSA is something you have to do every year, typically at your university you're going to, your college. The other thing is the FSA ID. You can actually go out and get your own FSA ID right now. It's middle of September right now when we're talking. Nothing stopping families, students going out and getting their own FSA ID. And the secret there is the student needs one and a parent needs one. Both parents don't need one. Just one parent has to sign the FAFSA if there's two in the household. But yeah, they each need one.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we get a phone call about that almost every day towards the end of the year. Where's my FAA ID? I'm like, I do not know. I don't know how to tell you this. Where do I direct them to? So where will we direct students to so they get their ID for that going forward?
Right, and we don't even have access to that. That's a Department of Education ID. So it's like an online, any of Amazon or whatever company you have a username and a password for. It's like that. So you can go to the FSA ID website and retrieve password, retrieve your username there, and that's the best way to go, I would think.
Just Google FSA ID and it'll come up, and you can either create one, you can manage it, or I think it's just create and manage. It seems like there's a third tab and I can't remember what it is. My suggestion to you, to any student, a new senior who is going to be filling out the FAFSA on October 1st, because that's when it opens, do not use your high school email
Oh, yeah.
for your FSA IDs.
Yep.
Because eventually high schools will shut those down. And so this year it'll be fine. But next year when you go to do your FAFSA again, you might, and you can't remember your password, because who remembers a password that they only use every year? You're not going to be able to reset it. And that happens all the time in our office. I get calls all the time. I don't know my password. I can't get in. I can't complete my FAFSA. And I can't help you. At that point, you have to call the FSA helpline. And that is much more difficult than just using a personal email.
So what is your FSA ID? That's actually you. That's your electronic signature when you're signing the FAFSA. So
Okay.
this is not something you just want to be handing out to people.
Right.
You want to keep it like a password. You're not handing out your passwords to
Right.
everybody, hopefully. So you also want to protect it in that sense. But it is you're signing the FAFSA like you are on a piece of paper with that FSA ID.
Right. Which would make sense why none of us, whether you're in admissions or a financial aid office, why we wouldn't have access to that, because I'm pretty sure some illegal things would be done
Yes.
if everyone knew your FSA ID.
Yes.
But yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
The other thing is they will verify your information. So they're going to verify your social security number. They're going to make sure you are who you say you are. So you don't want to be giving that out. The other thing is it's not like when you sign up for an account on a retail store where they ask you to verify your email and then you can go log in. It'll take a few days to get that back. So if you haven't done your FSA ID, do it now, and then you're ready to go.
Awesome. All right, so let's say that I finally got my FSA ID, and I've put it in a place where I can remember it, and now I'm actually in the FAFSA. You mentioned that every single year you have to fill it out, and right now we're in the midst of a pandemic, and so a lot of people's families have been affected by COVID-19. And so how would you go about notating that within your FAFSA to be able to give an accurate read of how much money your family made, let's say last year versus this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So keep in mind the FAFSA is just a snapshot.
Yeah.
And the FAFSA is going to look at your tax information two years ago. So obviously, as we've all experienced the last however many months it's been, a lot can change in a short amount of time, and especially 2 years from now. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill out the FAFSA. It's a snapshot the day you fill it out. It's looking at 2 years prior tax information. So you're going to fill it out just as that way. So you're going to do the DRT, that information is going to come over. That may not be where you're at financially as a family today. That's okay. That's okay. Fill it out, get it submitted. That's the biggest thing. So then if circumstances have changed, COVID, COVID 2, whatever, is going on in the world, craziness, and, a parent loses a job or whatever happens, out of the ordinary circumstances, you're going to contact your admissions counselor. You're going to contact us in financial aid. We're going to step through that process with you. It's called a professional judgment. Mm-hmm. So anytime there's Department of Education, federal government involved, there's forms. So the fun saying in financial aid is, we have a form for that. So yes, we do have a form for if your income's been reduced, if there's been a separation in the family, different things like that we can work through. And we're there, to go step by step with the families to walk them through it. So it's intimidating. The most important thing is get your FAFSA filled out. And if things have changed since the taxes 2 years ago, don't panic. We're here to help you.
Yeah, and I think just the way that we as a society approach the idea of money, at times it can be almost like embarrassing to have to, let's say expose something that's, let's say, personal to your family or things of that nature. But one thing that I do want to say to students is, as admissions counselors, we're on your side and we're really trying to help you as much as we can. So it will take a little bit of vulnerability to say, hey, my family isn't financially in the same place that, it was, let's say, a year or two ago. And so that's really important to, have that kind of the vulnerability. And also we're able to help you out much more because of that information rather than trying to hide it or, put it under the rug. And then at the end of the day, you're actually missing out on maybe getting more financial aid or a better scholarship or whatever it may be. So I think that's something that's important to note as well.
That's 100%, because we're here to help you as a student, you as a family. We get excited when we find money for people. That's our job. Right. So we're gonna ask questions, and we've heard it before. So yeah, please don't be embarrassed about your situation. Those type of things. It's okay.
And believe it or not, that is hard for a student to do. Just be open up on the phone like that, just saying, "Hey, we can't do this. It's hard for us because it's every student doesn't feel comfortable enough to do that." But I know one thing for sure about the FAFSA: how early should you fill it out, and how fast should you try to get that in? Because I know it's more important to get it in early than you can. As soon as October 1st it comes around.
Right. So what we say in the financial aid office is we have a priority filing date of December 1st. The reason we do that, so there's different categories of financial aid. There's federal financial aid, there's state financial aid, institutional financial aid, and then there's self-help. The reason we say December 1st is for state financial aid. They will actually put a deadline of a date that you have to have your FAFSA filled out to qualify for some state programs.
Okay.
So just to be on the safe side, we put a priority filing date of December 1st for students. That doesn't mean if it's February 2nd and you forgot to fill out your FAFSA that you're not going to do it. Do it. But the priority filing date for us is December 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's important to fill it out early as soon as possible.
Oh. Yeah, what you said, right?
So really, when should you fill out the FAFSA? As soon as you can. So October 1st hits, try to fill that thing out. A lot of times when October 1st hits, it's busy. Everyone in the whole nation is trying to fill that FAFSA out. So you might run into some slowdowns. You might not be able to get in, but keep trying until you get that done. Because December 1st is our priority deadline. And then for the Illinois State MAP grant, you would need it in by December 1st to guarantee those funds if you qualify. But as soon as you can, then it's done. You don't have to worry about it for the next year. Do it just as soon as you can.
Yeah, and then I think on the other side as well, it gives you more time to analyze like the financial aid and whatever comes out of that. You're able to kind of sit with that and make a better decision rather than being rushed. Let's say you're doing it at the end of at the end of the school year, and now you're trying to find a college or university, and you have no idea what to expect because you don't really have as much time to sit on it and think about it and talk about it.
Oh, which question you want to go to?
The role of the
I was waiting for you. Like, okay, which question do you want to go to next? So, what role does the students and the parents have to do in completing the FAFSA, in a sense? So, what roles do each one of them have in doing it, and how should they do it together to get it done as fast as possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, they each have their own FSA ID. I think we covered that. The initial tab, there's different tabs that you fill out on the FAFSA. The initial one's sort of the basic demographic information, your address, things like that, that you're going to fill out. There's going to be a tab just for student information. So, whether it's the parent or student entering it, the student needs to be aware of it because at the end, the student FSA ID is going to be used and signed that they looked at the information and this is true and accurate. But there's also student income information in there. And if the student filed the taxes, they can do the Irs Data Retrieval that Holly talked about a little bit earlier. And then the next tab is the parent information. So, is one parent at home or two parents in the household, so both the information is on there if there's two parents in the household. And the next tab is the parent financials that way. So it's a team effort, basically. Like when both of my boys filled it out, we sort of sat down and went through it. It took, like I said, like 35 minutes to do. And we sat down on the couch with the laptop, and went down through the questions together.
Okay. And then once you fill it out, what can you kind of expect out of the FAFSA, right? So it's not necessarily, FAFSA isn't your financial aid package. So once you do get your financial aid package, you mentioned, kind of different modes of financial aid that you can get. Could you go a little bit deeper into that and explain the difference between like federal, merit scholarships, those types of things?
Yeah. So I like to look at financial aid sort of in 4 quadrants. So let's back up a little bit. The FAFSA itself, what to expect out of that. You're gonna fill out this FAFSA. You're gonna hit the submit. You're gonna sign it with both FSA IDs.
Oh, can I interject?
Yes, please.
So there's 2 buttons. There's a save button and a submit button. And a lot of times, new FAFSA filers will hit save, but not submit. If you don't submit it, it does not ask for those signatures, and it will not be completed until you do. So save it if you've got to step away and come back. Save it often so you don't have to come, you don't lose something, website doesn't go down, whatever. But definitely make sure you hit submit, because otherwise we will not get it. Okay, sorry about that.
Right, no, that's great. So so once you've hit the submit button and it's gone, it will go to the Department of Education. They'll go through all their checks that they do with the information. And then in about 7 to 10 days, you'll get an email. Sometimes it's sooner, but expect about 7 to 10 days, and you'll get an email saying, okay, here's your student aid report. So it's sort of a summary of what was on the FAFSA. It also gives you the EFC, which I really like to think as an eligibility indicator. So what that tells us in the financial aid department is those different quadrants we talked about. So federal money. You hear a lot, lots of talk about federal financial aid these days. The big one is the Pell Grant. So this EFC, if it's below around 5,400, you will probably get the Pell Grant, some amount of Pell Grant. So your EFC, the eligibility indicator, can range from 0 to, like $1 million or something like that, a lot. So it'll be a number that you get back that's on the student aid report. So that tells us in the financial aid department if you're Pell Grant eligible, if you get the SEOG grant, if you'd qualify for like a subsidized loan, federal direct subsidized loan from the federal government, things like that. On the federal side, the state side, same thing applies, the EFC. If it's below 9,000, you most likely will get the Illinois State MAP grant if you're an Illinois resident.
And you meet those deadlines.
Right.
And you meet the deadlines. Thank you.
I mean,
Yes.
if you file too late, Yeah, that's $9,000. I mean, that's
$5,300.
$5,300 this year that you would lose.
Right, exactly.
And the EFC is expected family contribution, which is pulled from the IRS data that you would put in.
Right, it's all the financial information that you put in. It takes account number of family, number in college, age of the oldest parent. So actually the tax rate of your state. I mean, it goes into some pretty detailed stuff. Pretty complicated calculation, but yeah.
And with the map and Pell, can you explain a little bit more into that? And I know one used to run out before the other, but does that still happen now, or is that something a little bit different going forward?
Right. So with anything, and this is why it's sort of fun to work in financial aid. It's always changing. That can also be some of the frustrating parts about financial aid too, but that's okay. Right now, the federal Pell Grant, you can earn up to 600% of your federal, basically 6 years worth of a Pell Grant. So if you're going to college, full time in a fall semester, and you use your Pell Grant, that's 50%. So usually, fall, spring semester is 100%. So you can do that 6 times for the Pell Grant, and then you're done. That's your lifetime limit. The Illinois State MAP Grant actually just did away with their limit, and you can, as long as you're a degree-seeking student, first bachelor's degree, you can get a MAP grant.
Now, we should mention that for the MAP grant, you have to live in Illinois and go to an Illinois-approved school,
And so
in
your
Illinois.
parents,
Yeah.
And your parents do too. You have to be Illinois residents, parents and students.
That's a better way to put that.
Parents and students have to be living in Illinois to get the MAP grant? So
If
not
they're
just,
dependent students, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always thought maybe one parent could be living out of state and they can still get it if they're living with the parent in state. Does that work that way still, or is it a little bit different?
If they're if they're living, like the custodial parent is in Illinois, then yeah.
Okay.
Right, and if that parent's providing more than 50% of the support for that student.
All right.
Yeah.
Which could lead to the next question of which parent do we put on the FAFSA if my parents are divorced and don't live together? Which one do you live with 50% of the time? You pick that parent. So.
Right.
That says itself for it.
Right, yeah.
Does it for itself a little bit.
But students going into this, they don't know. It asks for parent 1, parent 2. Well, what if I have a step parent? If you live with the step parent, the step parent's information has to be on there also. It can get kind of confusing.
And we've heard it all, so don't just let us know and we'll help you walk through it. Don't feel whatever about it. It's okay. It's okay.
And then one thing that I really always try to tell students when we're having like financial aid conversations, at least the way that it works at Greenville University, is anytime that you see the word awards, scholarship, or grant, that's money that you don't have to pay back. And you guys were talking about how sometimes you'll get a student who said, hey, I didn't know that I had to take out loans, or that I had these loans and took them out. And so that's something that I do want to tell parents and students as well, as they're looking at the financial aid package. And you kind of mentioned the 4 different, kind of quadrants. That loans is also something that you want to be aware of, that, hey, okay, this is what I'm taking out. And then you don't have to take out the loans, but you can choose to take out the amount that's given to you. I just wanted to mention that as well.
Right. And to go back a little bit, we didn't finish the 4 quadrants either, We went to the federal and the state. So then there's the institutional quadrant too.
Okay.
So what we do as an institution, we take the FAFSA information, but a lot of it is merit-based, Panther preferred, all those great scholarships that your admissions folks will be talking to you about. That's the institutional quadrant right there that we really try to zero in on. And again, we're not trying to hold anything back, so we're giving out as much as we can up front for folks that way. So check the website, talk to your admissions counselor. They're going to have the latest and greatest on the institutional quadrant on that. The 4th quadrant, just to wrap that up there, is self-help. And that's sort of where loans come into play a little bit. But the institution, the federal government, the state government, sort of sees this picture in 4 quadrants. And yes, self-help is family, student, resources. some of those could be loans. The majority of universities will package a financial aid package with the federal student loans. So 9 times out of 10, if you get a financial aid package, there are going to be loans on there. Absolutely do not have to take those out if you don't want to. Again, those are just offers out there. Usually what we do for the federal student loans is we put the max amount out there, and you can reduce that down to whatever amount, or just decline them altogether as well. But the self-help quadrant as well, be thinking about summer jobs, Christmas presents from grandma and grandpa, hey, help me buy some college books or something, things like that, or a laptop, things like that you need for college. Start thinking about that your junior, senior year, and you can start ramping up some resources outside scholarships.
Yes.
Holly knows about that.
I will tell you, until I worked in financial aid, I did not realize how much $500 will add up. I mean, if you get 3 $500 scholarships from, I don't know, your school has scholarships a lot of times.
Yeah.
There's, in my community, there's an Air Force family that does a scholarship in honor of their son, that apply. It takes a little bit of effort on your part, but if you get $1,000 scholarship, that's $1,000 less dollars you have to pay.
That's right.
And it adds up. I was surprised until I worked here. I didn't really realize how much that would add up.
So you ask your high school guidance counselor. They should. That would be a good resource. You can do Google searches. There's search engines out there, or websites for external scholarships like that as well that you can go. Sometimes your parents' work will have that. Another great thing that we do here at Greenville University is a church partnership scholarship. So if a church is willing to give money up to $1,000, we will match that. Greenville University will match that money. So if they give $500, we'll match it with $500. So there's your $1,000 again. So just keep an eye out and ask around. With those people and anybody really, where do you get outside scholarships or external scholarships?
And you really might get it. I had a student in my office this year who was like, I applied for a $10,000 scholarship, and I wound up with $5,000 for fall and $5,000 for spring.
Oh,
we
man.
never thought.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to give false hope.
Right.
But But they were like, I really did not think this was going to happen. And I was so excited for them, because that's funds they don't have to repay.
But if you don't ask the question, you don't do the research, the answer is going to be no.
And if you don't apply,
Exactly.
you're not, search them out.
Yeah.
I know, being a admissions counselor here, we always talk about doing like external scholarships and how important it is to do them early and start working on it too as well. But they do, like you said, it does add up very quickly, and it can help out a tremendous amount if you just take the time to sit there and do it.
Right.
So if any students are really listening and sitting in on this with their parents, take that time to go look at outside scholarships, because it will help you a tremendous amount. Whether it be a $200 scholarship or to a $10,000 scholarship, it adds up. It can help pay for school, and it makes things much better and much easier for you to be more financially capable for stuff.
So if your student's bored at home, that should be the go-to response. Well, have you looked for scholarships recently?
Yes, yes.
If your friends are over and bored, get together and look for scholarships. I've heard of having scholarship search parties. Of students doing that. So
That's a winning circle right there.
Yeah.
That is a winning circle.
Yeah.
I wish I had more of that as a student.
I know, right? And you can do it even after you're in college. You can continue to look for those external scholarships. It doesn't stop.
That's correct.
Your first year in college.
Wait, so you can look for more scholarships while you're in school still?
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I just learned something new.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go, man.
You might not want to, I don't, okay, you might want to edit this out, but I get a lot of calls. Hey, I saw this scholarship on your website. Do I qualify for this? Institutional aid is ran through the admissions department. Federal aid is the financial aid department. So, if you're interested and see if you want to qualify for an institutional scholarship, call your admissions counselor. We kind of do what they tell us on that end, Now, you got a question about your Pell Grant or your subsidized loan or your MAP grant? We are more than happy to try and answer that for you and tell you if you qualify. But as far as qualifying for institutional aid, always start with admissions.
100%.
And you can edit that out if you want, but I'm just...
I thought that was perfect, though. It says a lot.
Because I get that question all the time.
What are some common questions that you guys get up there besides when you just said, Holly? What are some more common questions you guys get from parents when you're on the phone with them about financial aid?
Wow. Well, Holly's the one that is the sort of the front person in our office that if you call the financial aid office, you're going to talk to Holly.
Yes, you are.
That way. So I'm going to try to defer to her. I'm stalling a little bit so she can maybe think of some
I think we've covered a lot of them. I also get a lot of student account questions, but that's not really what this is about.
Right.
Maybe.
So there is a separation. We're financial aid. We're going out and looking for money. Where you make payments in your student account and all the billing and stuff happens in a whole nother office.
Department.
That way.
And we cross over. I'm more than willing to help you if I know the answer, but sometimes I just don't know those answers. And you need to talk to student accounts and, vice versa. They do the same for us.
One thing that, even right now as we're talking, I'm noticing that, on the student and parent side, it's a team effort. And then also on our side, right, it's a team effort between admissions and financial aid. And so we want the listeners to understand that a lot of times this is something that's new for families. It's something that they've never done before. They don't necessarily know how to navigate it as easily, and that's 100% okay. There should be no shame in that. And we actually, we have our phone numbers on the websites, and you can actually set up appointments to talk about, financial aid and talk about the different scholarships that you may qualify for. So I think that's also something that is important to note as you listen to this podcast or watch, that we, even though we deal with these things on a daily basis, we still recognize that they can be difficult to navigate, even for us as we deal with them. So definitely on the student and parent side, it's not going to be the easiest walk as well. So we are a resource that you can reach out to and, get help. And we'll do our best to really make college the best investment that you can make.
Absolutely. So let me just cover the timeline real quick as you talk about helping. So fill out your FAFSA in October. First, you should be applying and getting accepted to Greenville. And then starting usually about the 1st of December-ish, depending on how, software updates and all those type of things, the federal government announcements, all those things come into play, we will start doing financial aid packages. So October and November, you should be filling out your FAFSA, getting that done. December, January, and on, we will start sending out financial aid packages. And then obviously once you get that, your admissions counselor, the admissions folks are the great first line of reference that you can call for questions there. And then we're sort of the backup. That way we're sort of the cavalry that comes in, if needed. So.
And I do want to say, with financial aid calls, do not be scared to call us, because that's what we're here to help you guys do. We know those numbers can be very intimidating when you're looking at it all the time, saying like, what does this number go to? Where is this money going to? Or how does this work? That's why we are here. We want to help you guys best ways possible. So that's when we set up phone calls with you guys to do financial aid calls. We're going to walk through it step by step. And if we don't know the answer, we're going to ask them, and they're going to figure out the answer for us. So that way we can help you best ways possible. Because at the end of the day, we want to make this possible for you to be a student.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, we want to thank you for coming on the podcast with us again today.
It's been great.
It's been fun.
And that's a wrap.